guys, so I took a little video last night kind of showing a project that I got going on out here in the shop, working on that utility box. And like I said, I was going to show a little process that I have to make the doors. So the doors are recessed, and in order to recess them, make them look nice, you got to break the edges. Well, the problem with doing that is, like I said, I don't have a brake. So one way to get by that is basically bending them by hand. So I just want to show you guys the process that I found works for me, and I get a pretty good result by doing that. It's a lengthier process versus just putting it in the brake. Whether it be hydraulic and just kind of hitting the button, letting it do its thing, bending it up in seconds later you got a nice bend, or even a manual brake, picking it up. Since I don't have the proper equipment to do it, kind of got to do it the hard way, which makes it fun, gives a little bit extra pride into that project that you're doing. So I'm not sure how I'm going to edit this video. Like I said, I'm kind of new to that portion of it, so we'll see how this turns out. But I just want to show you guys how I will do the bends to make get the same result as having a brake. So we're going to start off. This is one of the smaller doors here, which I have to complete. So it starts out as 22 3/4 and 21 1/2. So that's already factored into my trim. So we're going to give it 5/8 trim all the way around. So we've already got that factored in. By the time it's done, subtract your 5/8 off each edge, and that'll be the actual door width. So it's pretty simple. All we're going to do is, so you can come in here, base off each edge, come in, and I don't know if you guys can see this or not, I hope you can, but we'll go in and you can use the edge of your tape measure, that's fine. What I like to do is actually run it out a little bit here, so we'll say 7 inches, and what that does is gives me just a little bit of a arm rest to get my mark. And I know you're probably questioning why I'm using a Sharpie. I like using the Sharpie for something like this because it gives me a real bold line to go off of, and as long as you mark it right, you've got your, you only have 2 sides of the Sharpie to go off of. You got your left or your right. Well, if you mark it off, do your little arrow off the side, I know that I'm going to go off of this side of the Sharpie. Now granted, I'm going to do a straighter line than that, so something like that. I'm going to mark it on the low side of that Sharpie mark, and on both sides, then I'll do my straight edge, and I know that I want to go off this side of the Sharpie. So it really doesn't matter how wide, in my eyes, it really doesn't matter how wide your line is. You can use a real wide Sharpie if you wanted to. As long as you've got your focal point on one side or the other, it really doesn't matter. So you could use a silver streak, like a Markall silver streak. Those work great. It's a little bit more of a fine line, but Sharpie works good. It's a nice dark edge to go off of. So I'll put it at 7 inches, and then I got a little bit of rest on my one arm. So we're at 7 inches eyeballed on the edge, which is pretty accurate. And just like that. So that's 5/8 of an inch in. We'll do the same here. It doesn't really matter what inch you go to. So we're using the 8-inch mark here. So just like that, we got a 5/8 line to go off of. And we'll do 2 at a time. So slide it over. 5/8 again. Draw your line. So as long as I know I'm on this side of the line, it doesn't really matter how thick your tool is that you're marking it with. So 5/8, and just like that. Now you could take your T-square, and this is all hand cut. So you could take your T-square and put it up against there, and chances are, even if it was, depending if you cut with a Tabo plasma cutter, unless it's been cut out perfectly, you're not guaranteed a straight edge. And that's, like this right here, if you measure it, it's probably all 5 out of 16. So 22 3/4, 22 3/4. So it's pretty straight, but I'm not going to go off of that because I won't trust that. I'm going to trust this edge that I measured 5/8. I know at this point here it's 5/8, that point it's 5/8, and that's all I'm going to go off of. I don't care about the squareness of the other edge. I'm going to go off of one edge at all times. So come over. Just your standard T-square here. We'll use a straight edge. Come off the back side, and we'll use that so I know to go off this side of that mark. Draw my line. So that's 5/8. Same goes for this. So I'm just going to line it right up with the very edge of that mark. Draw our line again, all the way through too. So you want to draw it all the way through, because this little corner right here, this square that's produced, that's actually what's going to get chopped out, because when you go to bend it, you have to have that relief. So we're going to flip it over, do the other two corresponding sides. Again, 5/8. 5/8 trim all the way around on this thing. So start with 2 here. 5/8. 5/8. Every once in a while I got to go back and double check that I sit there and look at the tape measure, and you think you'd be good at it after doing it for so long, but it doesn't hurt to go back and double check. They say the whole measure twice, cut once. Sometimes you got to check that thing 4 times before you actually cut it. A bad thing to get into. It only takes a couple seconds. So same thing here, right at the edge. Like I said, I draw those little arrows. That little flick lets me know what side I want to go off of. So right there. Right there. For those of you watching that have the proper tools, you know, a brake, that's awesome. This video probably isn't much help to you, which I envy you for not having to worry about doing it this way, but it's not a bad thing to start from the basics. Like I said, I've been doing this for about 2 years now. I have a lot of tools I have to buy yet, but when the day comes I do own a brake, it'll make a job like this that much sweeter. I'll be that much more appreciative of owning that brake. So what we're going to do next is we're going to take and chop out, I'm not sure where you guys can see it at or not, but the square in the corner, all 4 of those, we're going to chop those out. And then we'll take our Metabo with just normal cutoff wheel. It's a 40 or 45 thousandths thick cutoff wheel. We're just going to follow that line dead center, right in the center there. Because if I were to, let's say if I were to follow this side of the line, the far edge, which is basically what we're going to do, it'll work fine. But if I were to cut on the opposite side, you know, you'll have the extra 45. You're about a 16th off then. And you're looking at about 11/16 bend with it. So we're going to follow that line, basically just split the gap all the way around. And we're going to score it till we get about halfway of this material, which is about 11 gauge. And it still bends harder than you would think. And like I said, the process I'm going to do is we're going to score it. So we're going to weaken this material. We're going to bend it by hand, and after that we're going to go back through with a dead blow hammer. We're going to massage it. We're going to make it look really pretty. So when I put these bends in by hand, I'm bending every inch or so, and it'll leave this wave-looking bend. It's not going to be very cosmetically pleasing. So we'll put that hammer on there, that dead blow. We'll massage it in, do a little bit of body work to it. Like I said, it's a lot longer process, but it produces a pretty good result. So just give me a second here. We'll get everything out to do the cutting and the scoring part of it, and then we'll get into the bending portion of it. So. Alright guys, so we got the Matamo out, we got our cutoff wheel on there. Just realized we're not running it proper here, so it's we're gonna edit this part out. Edit it out. Alright guys, so I'm gonna grab the other clamp this side down. So we're just gonna kind of hand cut this real quick, just try to stay as straight as possible. Believe it or not, I really like using these Irwin clamps here. They're actually woodworking clamps, but they do a really good job because they've got these rubber feet to them. They help grip really well. You don't really have to apply that much pressure to them. Messy clamps, the Welding F clamps are great too. These do a really good job for something like this, just because they give you a little bit extra grip. So we're gonna just scribe this line, and this is where like not so much experience, just kind of feel comes into play. You don't want to score it too far. If you score it too thin, you go to bend it, it's going to split. If you score it too thick, it's just going to be that much harder to bend. So we're just going to score this one right here. We'll cut out our corners, that little square I was talking about, and we'll sit there, we'll score it, and then we'll go through and we'll bend it real quick, and I'll kind of show you that process. So. Cutting out those corners, it doesn't hurt to go a little bit past your line, because when you go to pull them up, you'll have that seam that you have to weld in, and it doesn't hurt to go over a 1/16 or even an 1/8 of an inch, because you can always fill that gap back in with a weld, versus going to bend it and then you didn't cut enough away and then your seams meet before you can get that perfect 90 on each end. So just a little food for thought. Got my little handy pen light, and I like to use that kind of with my support hand, and that's why I use to follow that line. Just makes it a little bit clearer. I got enough light in here, but it doesn't hurt to have a little bit extra light to follow that line. So we're going to go through on a light pass. After that, we're going to run over a couple times, and that's when it comes all into feel on how thick or thin you want it to be. So we've got our little line scribed now. It's going to make it a little bit easier to go past. I'm just going to go a full length pass each time until I get that desired amount of thickness. So we're going to go just basically a little over half the thickness of the material. So it's 1/8 inch. So again, that's what it kind of comes out to. You have to do it a couple times. If you do go to bend it and it splits on the edge, it's not game over. You could always go back through and do a light pass, fill it back in with a weld, and blend it back in with your grinder, your die grinder. Go back over with the Scotch-Brite, really blend it then, make it look pretty. But once you do it a couple times, you kind of get a feel for how thick you really want to score that. So you're just weakening that material to make it easier. And it's just kind of like snapping glass. You're doing your score, and it's got that straight point to go off of. So it's really easy when you're doing it, beginning and end, generally. I mean, about every time I do it. Right here, beginning and the end is always going to be a thinner point. That's just kind of how it works. That's just human error. But you just kind of want to float over it, just take as little as possible and evenly as possible. So from here, you can kind of look and eyeball it, and I'm pretty darn close there. So from here, we're gonna unclamp. I'll take that. I got some, like I said, some 1.5 inch square stock, solid square laying around. We're gonna grab that and use that as my straight edge to clamp it down, and just kind of work it with the crescent wrench. After that, we'll go back through and use that square, kind of like body work. We're going to use that and kind of slap it against that for my straight edge. And you can get it pretty square and pretty straight. So this little guy right here. Take our mark where we scored it and get it pretty close to the edge of my table here. Go down and clamper down. It'd be great if I had a chunk of this that was the same length as the door itself. In a perfect world, that would happen. I'm not that fortunate. So we're going to have to kind of change position a couple times, but that's okay. So I'll come over here and grab my crescent wrench. Alright guys, so you can kind of see a little bit better here, I hope. So we're kind of starting to work this edge up right now. So just take your crescent wrench and the closer you can keep your bends together, the better. It's not very critical. But you can kind of see I'm just kind of massaging this end up here. Hopefully you guys are getting that. Once we get so close with this crescent wrench method, it's going to look a little more primitive, but we're going to go back through with a hammer. And that's actually where you're going to get your nice straight clean edge. So right now by doing this, it's leaving little straight and uneven bent lines. So you go grab the trusty dead blow. We'll put the dead blow on there, and that's where we'll kind of start tapping him back in. When it comes to doing this process, you're given two options. You got your standard dead blow, like a rubber face mallet dead blow. And then you got, this is also dead blow, but it's a steel face. This gets the work done a little bit faster because you're getting more of a hit out of it, but it'll leave little marred dents and dings into your material. So I like to use this. It's a little bit more work, but you'll see how fast it goes. So we're going to sit here and slap him around. Alright guys, so just took a small, I'm going to edit this into the other little video. I took a small video on how I went about bending up these doors and making them, and I said about you want to weld your edges, the corner edges inside and out, and a couple stitch welches just to give a little more rigidity. And so I figured I'd just kind of edit this little snippet into that and just kind of make a small video out of it. So we're just going to, it's all MIG weld. We're just going to weld inside and outside edges of the corners and a couple stitches on the inside just help give it that little bit of rigidity since we went back through and scored it. It's not necessary, but it doesn't hurt either. So we're running at 20 volts, running on the ESOB here. It's the ESOB 205. We're at 20 volts, 312 or 308 wire speed, so it should give me about 120 amp. 030 wire, need snip, 030 wire, and 75-25 mix, of course. And I also need to hook up my power lug for it. But like I said, let's do a quick little video. We're going to weld inside corners, outside corners, and then basically 3 stitches per side here. So this is already bent up. All of our angles are at 90 degrees. I'm happy with how it turned out. We're going to make it permanent, and then we'll be done with this door, and we got one more door to go. So. So again, guys, I hope you enjoyed it. It's nothing crazy, but I enjoy sharing you know, my experience with you guys and other people. So if you got a kick out of it, feel free to leave some input. If not, either way, thanks for watching. Hope you guys have a good night.